hi everyone. This is Kevin from Bombas, and taking a step back from the technical side of things, we'll be talking about how we use analytics engineering and DBT to promote this thing called data curiosity to help scale Bombas. So first, for those of you who don't know about Bombas, Bombas is an apparel company that started out making the most comfortable socks in the history of feet, and we have strong roots in our mission to give back to the community. Following after Tom's model, we donate an item for every item purchased, and to date, we have donated over 30 million pairs of socks to giving partners all over the US. So a little bit about myself. I personally have been at Bombas for over 3 years and have watched the Hive grow from 19 employees. I was employee number 19 to a startup that's 150 people strong. And alongside one other analyst, I helped Bombas go from doing data on Excel worksheets to a cloud database. And we've used a variety of tools like Mode, Periscope, and now we're on Looker. The data analytics team is now 6 people strong, and we're still growing. We actually just hired one more, so 7 now. And cultivating data curiosity has really helped us grow at scale while keeping our team very lean. So just a quick brief on why data curiosity matters. So a quote from Harvard Business Review: curiosity is vital to an organization's performance. And some of these benefits are better communication, increased innovation, and generally more meaningful work. And when you have a successful application of data curiosity in your organization, you can save a lot of resources on your data and analytics team. And we'll go into details on how we achieve that. Curious people learn how to interpret data and use data better. And this curiosity spreads across their team and then onto the organization. Suddenly people are asking each other, like, how did you get this chart? And then people want to start making their own charts. And when people learn to use data, they're able to also cross-check each other's work. And so here's a real example with real people from our team, but for privacy reasons, I'll be using their real pet names. So representing the data team, at the top here, we have Giblet the piglet. And then right below him, we have Moral the mini horse, who works for our customer happiness team. When Moral the mini horse asked Giblet the piglet for some data help, rather than just handing her the results, Giblet actually worked with Moral, and together they created a dashboard for her customer happiness team. From there, Moral learned how to create charts and started creating her own charts. She showed her results to Lulu the husky on the right side, who works for the design team. And Lulu is now interested and invited her whole team for some data training. This is just a small example to show how data curiosity can spread quickly and how data curious teams will start collaborating to answer their own questions. So what exactly do analytics engineers do to enable data curiosity? Claire has mentioned in her DBT blog post that analytics engineers provide data for users and model data to empower users to answer their own questions. And at Bombas, we embrace that definition, and we believe that we can empower people to ask the right questions. In our journey, we have actually come across 3 main barriers to data curiosity. And these are data accessibility, data reliability, and data literacy. So before we look at each one of these in detail and how we break them down, I would love to know in the chat which of these data barriers is your organization dealing with. Let us know in the chat. I would love to know. I haven't talked this much since quarantine started, so. Oh. So CLR reliability, and for Bombas, literacy is now CLR literacy. Yeah, for Bombas, literacy is one of our biggest barriers because data is still, believe it or not, relatively new to just the business world. Data is still a very shiny new thing, and not a lot of people have come into contact with data yet. So let's get started with data accessibility. Getting relevant data to the right people. This is straightforward in theory, but you got to pay close attention to it in practice. At Bombas, serving our amazing customers is one of our core values. And for the data and analytics team, this is our customers are our stakeholders or other teams in a company. So we work closely with these stakeholders to serve their data needs. And it is important to note that analysts are not product managers. Analysts work with stakeholders to develop solutions rather than manage their whole project. And you may have a project manager on the data team, but you want to avoid making an analyst do the duties of a project manager if possible. And having the right tools has really helped Bombas deliver data to stakeholders really quickly. And so first we had Stitch, which made connecting to data sources something that can be done without a data engineer. And then we use dbt Cloud to automate a lot of the data modeling processes and some of these database management. And we're also able to quickly isolate and correct mistakes once proper tests were set up with dbt. Overall, these tools really allowed us to serve a large amount of data to Bombas at large with a really, really small team. Fortunately, we actually consulted with Fishtown early on in our data journey and have been leveraging these tools to process large amounts of data. And actually, Erin was the first one to help us set this up, and she's in this talk right now, so thank you, Erin. So these tools really allowed us to get data quickly to users that need them. And while being able to share a lot of data is exciting, too much data could actually cause paralysis, especially for someone who's new to data and curious to learn more. They could be like a deer in headlights, seeing so much data that they don't really know where to start. So at Bombas, we believe that less is more. To determine whether we are exposing too much data, we worked with our insights team to conduct an internal user experience study to gauge the usability of our Looker platform. This allowed us to get some proper insights into how users are interacting with the platform so that we can make the appropriate adjustments to improve the experience. And borrowing this philosophy from information security, we use the principle of least privilege. This means that we start out by giving users the most basic data sets to explore. Being an e-commerce company, most users are actually able to answer their own questions with just orders and customers data. And lastly, when working on new data models, we develop MVPs. If you don't know what MVP is, minimum viable product, and we start with MVPs to expose some really basic KPIs. And over time, we continue to work with stakeholders to iterate upon these MVPs. And this allows us to deliver quickly and accurately by focusing on a more narrow scope to address the most critical needs first. And one final thing to do to gain the trust of your data users, always be documenting. It's hard to empower without knowledge, so use dbt docs. Even analysts need to know how to serve the data correctly. Now that dbt Cloud supports read-only accounts, this is basically an open invitation to sharing your documentation more widely. And describe everything and define KPIs with stakeholders. Make sure that the fields that you expose to your users make sense and KPIs are calculated correctly and that everyone agrees on. So finally, we come to the data literacy portion, empowering and enabling others to dig into the data. To achieve this, we chose Looker as our BI tool. Number one reason is users don't need to know SQL. No one is barred from data exploration, and they do it under a controlled environment per your team's setup in Looker. And this opens up the data to a ton of users. They're able to answer some really simple questions. And this also means less resource requirements on the analytics team. Analytics team can now focus on the more difficult tasks while the users become more comfortable with data and ask some really good questions. So to encourage this, we created a number of programs designed to spread awareness, and our company All Hands every month, we announce a winner of Looker Champion, someone who has been a Looker advocate and has creatively solved their problems using Looker. This person is awarded with a sticker and a $25 gift card because everybody loves stickers. Looker Champion has been a huge success in bringing awareness to the wealth of information that is available to anyone. When we rolled out the program, we started getting questions from everybody asking what Looker can do for them and how they can get access to Looker. I guess everyone really just loves stickers. To help manage this new wave of data curious people, we trained some Looker ambassadors, and these are our resident Looker experts embedded into different teams. Or more correctly, they are Looker users from different teams that we train to become Looker experts. We meet monthly to discuss challenges that they have faced training other people or working in the Looker platform, and we work together to develop new features in Looker. Aside from these full-fledged programs, we believe that Slack channels and office hours are some very baseline methods to support data curiosity. Our Looker Slack channel is like a mini DBT community where we encourage users to answer each other's questions because oftentimes people have solved similar problems. We also have a monthly newsletter where we announce any Looker updates and an analysis of the month. And this helps open up the minds of analysts to the average user and helps guide them in using data more effectively. So how has data curiosity worked for us? Well, we have over 100 registered users, and a lot of these came right after we announced the Looker Champion for the first time. And this is out of 150 employees. So this is a huge portion of our company starting to use data. And about 30% of those registered users are actively using Looker to answer questions. And we have made 2/3 of our data sources available in the past 12 months as more users are requesting data for their teams. And in the meantime, we automated 75% of manual work streams, such as reporting and financial reconciliations, which saved users 80% of their time to access data. And this is because we're now able to do a lot of these reports with the data requests coming in Looker. Data curiosity has continued to keep Bombas a data-oriented organization, even as we scale drastically. And it's proven that analytics engineers need to enable that through data. So continued journey. If you want to discuss more about our data journey, feel free to email us after. And we have a 20% off discount code for bombas.com to get your own super comfortable socks. And if we're also hiring, if you're interested, we have some analyst roles open. And seriously, it's an amazing place to work. I'll open up to questions now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kevin. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and then we'll throw to you. I was just, Nick was saying that the ambassadors or the champions get sweatshirts, so I'm pretty jealous of that.
Yes.
And yeah, really nice touch on the discount code. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. This presentation was so amazing. I didn't have any questions. I just sat here smiling along. So gonna maybe wait for some people in the chat potentially. Cool. Ken, do you want to ask that question out loud?
Sure. Hi, Kevin. Great presentation. I think like a lot of other people, thinking about data literacy and, with DBT docs, being a part of that, also like data catalog. So what other ways have you thought about enabling sort of data search and discovery? Not only like what data is there, what it means, but what other people are using, what other kind of analysis is going on to sort of increase the curiosity that you're talking about?
Yeah, so to start, our monthly newsletter has been huge. We do an analysis of the month that people just really love. People love engaging in this analysis of the month, and they love asking where all this data came from. And on top of that, we actually host like a open invitation to everyone in our company to join this monthly meeting where we actually go in depth into this analysis of the month, and they're able to ask more questions, and we're able to kind of work more closely with their teams to kind of work out what kind of data we can get for them and how they can make use of the data that we have. Hope that answers your questions.
That's excellent. Thanks.
That's really cool. More of a technical question, will the slides be made publicly available? We're going to make the video of this meetup, we're going to upload it to YouTube. Maybe I'll let the presenters comment on whether they can share their slides as well.
Sure, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, happy to here too.
Oh, thanks, Katie. Cool. Yeah, I loved so much about this. I love this idea of like giving people access, like the principle of least privilege, giving them access to the kind of straightforward things. And then I think even that like plays on a bit of human psychology in terms of like, ooh, like that's all I have. Like what else is there? And gets people into that mindset of like asking more questions and, wanting more, as opposed to being inundated with way too many artifacts, way too many data artifacts. Cool. Tangen just asking a quick question there. Do you want to ask that one out loud?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess this goes for any user of DBT Cloud. If DBT docs, generate or whatever, publishes to DBT Cloud, like your DBT Cloud instance.
Kevin?
Yes, our DBT docs are indeed published on DBT Cloud, and we encourage everyone to start using those read-only accounts to share these docs to people who are super interested in what kind of data that you have. Because these definitions really do help in the long term, especially when you have new analysts and data engineers coming in. They got to know what kind of data you have and how to use them. Being an e-commerce company, we have just so many definitions and KPIs. It's super useful to kind of use DBT docs to keep track of all of these.
Great, thanks.
I'm still hoping someone finishes off the script that I started writing once, which takes like docs from a DBT project and puts them into a LookML project. Started it, it's somewhere on the internet. I think there's a few people using both technologies on this call, so open invitation. Okay, that is it for this edition of the New York Meetup. Thank you so much to the team from CityBlock, the team from Bombas.
It's a really good one.
Yeah.
One more question and it's good.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, from Daniel.
Oh, sorry, I totally missed this one. Daniel, do you want to ask that question out loud? Thank you, Janessa.
Sure. Thanks for catching that. It was a great presentation. I was just wondering what kinds of data requests surprised you?
To be honest, I think just the fact that we're getting data requests from every single team. And this is our community and giving team and also our design team. Like it's surprising to see these kind of team, like traditionally non-data oriented teams asking for data. And they're using data in a very interesting way also. For example, our design team wants to know about defects, which fortunately we're kind of tracking through our customer happiness team. So this is how they kind of work together to discover how that design team can use data. And then from there, they're learning how to read data a little bit more.
And then one last question from Kyle.
Hey, yeah. So I just wanted to ask, as you got everyone interested in the data and everyone wanted data like right away, how did you handle the scale of that and keeping everyone happy so that people didn't just become disinterested over time as you couldn't deliver it immediately?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. It's a very valid concern for us because we're such a small team, but we do a lot of work in working with our stakeholders to manage these expectations, and because we're still such a small team, we're continuing to hire more people, but we tend to we try to crank out MVPs as much as we can to address these needs, and then these MVPs are not just there to get the job done. You gotta also think long term. MVPs are also meant to last for the lifetime. So when we're building MVPs, we're also thinking about what kind of data would they want in the future, so we can kind of set up the baseline for these future requests and build upon these without going on to like a whole different version.
I'll also add, hey everyone, sorry, this is Nick from Bombas as well. Great job, Kevin. That was awesome. I'll also add, Kyle, we rely on the analytics team heavily too for some of the like low-hanging data requests, and they're extremely helpful in taking care of those, because oftentimes you'll find, you know, if we're kind of project managing a data request that is an integration and people are keen on, say, getting Salesforce data into Looker, oftentimes we'll loop in, you know, the analytics side of our team and say, hey, can you help us scope this? Is it just one report? And once we deliver that, oftentimes you'll find the stakeholder doesn't come back for another, you know, 3 to 6 months because they actually didn't need a recurring pipeline set up. They more so just needed a one-off analysis. So I think really scoping requests has been a huge part of our journey, and making sure people continue to stay interested, but also get the data they need.
Well, that was very helpful. Thank you. Also, great presentation.